How does CHFA work in Colorado? What credit score do you need to be able to utilize this program? What are the DTI requirements for CHFA? Most importantly, do you make too much money to be able to utilize this program? Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Arguello. I am a licensed realtor in the state of Colorado, and I am your first step to home ownership. If you were looking for a real estate agent, a realtor, or someone to help guide you through this process, I would love to be that person for you, help serve you, and help you get yourself into your first home. I recognize that Colorado is definitely a very expensive place to live. That's no surprise. So programs like this are exactly why I love what I do and why I come on the platform like YouTube to spread this knowledge. I'm just going to go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty when it comes to utilizing CHFA. Starting off with, what does CHFA stand for? CHFA stands for Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. You may be asking yourself, how do you get a CHFA loan? Do you have to go straight to their webpage and utilize their lenders and their realtors? No, that couldn't be further from the truth. Depending on the lender and the mortgage broker that you use, most at this time are able to loan on this program, but really asking those questions ahead of time will not only save you time, but also a lot of confusion. When you're looking at getting pre-approved, ask your lender what loans do they loan on. Do they have access to all programs that are applicable to first-time buyers in the state of Colorado? And also make sure they're well versed in those programs. Once you know and understand that the lender you're going through has access to this program, and at that time you would typically just submit a normal informal pre-approval. There's no additional steps needed on your side to be able to utilize this program. So quick little preface, if you're looking at utilizing this program, you don't want to use me as a realtor, that's fine, but you're a little bit confused or hesitant to use this lender or this lender, reach out to me. I can get you in touch with my lender. Again, no requirement to use me as a real estate agent or your realtor, but it kind of just helps navigate that process, and I can get you set up with some really good lenders in the game. Finishing off with requirements for CHFA. Some general requirements for this program would be the borrower has to have a mid-credit score of at least 620 and above, or 620 and higher. The total buyer income must not exceed CHFA income limits. I'll put them down below. But this past year, 2024, income limits have dramatically changed and have gone up a significant amount. For those normal household size, you cannot exceed a household income of $160,000. For individual income limits, we're looking at right around $62,000. Now, this is just a range, and it can increase depending on city and county you're looking at. I do have the webpage below if you wanted to see those numbers and kind of play with them, see if they're working in your favor depending on exactly where you're looking and what city. It can definitely change, but this gives you an idea on if this program is initially going to work for you right off the bat. The next requirement would be you have to attend a CHFA Homebuyer approved education class. Something really cool is these programs are now accessible to a borrower in person or online. This does have to be typically done before closing on your home. The class itself is super straightforward. You take a little quiz at the end just to make sure you understand what the class actually entails, and it can typically be done within a day. You would then supply that certificate to your mortgage broker or your lender, and you'd be able to check that little portion off. The last requirement is, as a buyer, you have to contribute at least $1,000. So a lot of times buyers think, I'm utilizing CHFA, I don't have to bring anything out of pocket, it's covering my down payment. So halt, reminder, you have to cover your closing costs, or you have to have something or a seller contribute or pay those closing costs for you. I've had a ton, and I would say maybe a handful of clients who have been able to purchase a home with as little as $1,000 down. So don't take that and say it's not doable, because it is, but it has to depend on the market, how long the home's been sitting, how your agent is during negotiation process, if they could really fight for you, and if the leverage is there to be able to ask for those closing costs to be paid for. So a little bit of a give and take, but it can definitely be done. Now that we have the requirements mapped out and kind of given some light to if this is the right program for you, let's really talk about what CHFA is and if it's really as good as it sounds. This down payment assistance program is probably the most known program in the state of Colorado. There are two different types of programs that CHFA offers, one of which is going to be the loan product and second mortgage. And the second one is going to be a grant, gifted money to you. The grant program, I typically don't really touch on as frequently because it is a much more strenuous process and a little bit more specific set of income requirements, DTI, as well as just their own set of requirements. Assuming you do go the grant program route, this money is of course forgiven upon closing on the home. However, if you decide to go the loan route with this program, CHFA will upfront your down payment, your full down payment. So you are not in fact required to bring a down payment to close. However, you are required to pay that money back when you either refinance on the property, resell the property, or if you in fact come to your full end of that 30-year loan, you have to pay it back. The cool thing about this is, keep in mind, if CHFA loans you $15,000 to cover that initial payment, whether you decide to sell, refinance, or pay off the entire loan, in 15, 20, or even 30 years, you will still in fact only owe $15,000 because it does not in fact accrue interest while being in that second mortgage position. It's a silent second, which is also a huge perk for someone weighing the options of potentially spending these funds up front or getting the help initially and keeping a little bit more money in your pocket as a buyer. You may be thinking, well, Jess, what's the catch? Why would a homeowner not take advantage of this program if it presented itself? Well, it does in fact increase your interest rate by about a 0.5%, half of a percentage. So just for reference, today we're looking at, let's say, 5% for a 30-year fixed rate loan. You can be prepared to close and have your new rate be 5.5% utilizing CHFA. So is it really free? Is it something that you can get over? And does this ultimately make sense for you? Those are questions I cannot answer, but I can definitely help potentially guide and bridge that gap on specific circumstances, or if you have, say, relative or in the next 3 or 5 year goals. How much does CHFA cover when it comes to your full down payment? Assuming you're going with the down payment assistance grant, it will typically cover 3% of that total purchase price of your home, up to and not to exceed to $25,000. Again, the perks with using the grant is there is no repayment required, and it is in fact completely forgiven upon closing on your home. The second mortgage loan, this covers your closing costs up to 4% of your first mortgage. Again, capping out at and not to exceed a total contribution of $25,000. When would you have to pay this money back? Upon your payoff of your first mortgage. So once you're done paying the entirety of that loan, the mortgage, the sale, if you decide to sell the home or refinance on that home, or if this home does no longer become your primary residence. So if you decide to utilize CHFA to help you get into home ownership, 2 years have passed and now you're looking at potentially renting that home out. That full balance is now declared in full, and you would have to either make arrangements or you would have to just get that completely paid off through CHFA. In addition to utilizing CHFA, are you as a buyer required to bring any additional funds to close or contribute as a buyer? Any additional money during this purchase? Yes, you are required to bring more money. You do as a borrower and a buyer have to put at least $1,000 down towards the purchase price of the home. So you as a buyer do have to contribute at least $1,000, whether you're utilizing this program or if you're not utilizing this program. Understand, in conjunction with that down payment, you as a buyer are also required to come up with and contribute your portion of closing costs. Closing costs on average, you can expect to pay 1.5% up to 2% of the total purchase price of the home. So let's just say your purchase price or your total home amount is $500,000. CHFA has contributed and paid for your full down payment, so that's covered. How much in addition do you as a buyer have to bring? So you can expect to bring an additional $10,000, 2% of $500,000, max, assuming your closing costs are in fact 2% of the loan amount. Now, this is not always the case, and I generally range on the 2% route because it's a little bit more. So we can at times get the seller to contribute or pay for those closing costs for you. And that is actually how I, as a buyer, have purchased my first and second property. I have never once contributed or paid for my closing costs, and it's just something I've been really lucky with, and something I've been lucky enough to get away with. So depending on the seller and how you approach that, again, how firm and how negotiable your agent is during that process, you can definitely look to potentially get all or a portion of those closing costs paid for. CHFA is an incredible loan product and program that, as a homeowner and a potential prospective buyer that really doesn't have much room to either say budget or concrete spend out for a down payment, or just truthfully afford at this given time. It allows a ton of buyers to be able to get their foot into home ownership, buy their first home. So if this is something that you've been either looking at trying to move forward with during the new year and you would like to purchase a home, you have set realistic expectations and you are, again, understanding that this is in fact your first home, I would love to work with you and show you how attainable it is and how amazing programs like this help buyers just like yourself. My info is down below, as well as some links directing you to this program, just to make sure it's a good fit for you. Reach out anytime. Let's schedule a call. Let's map out and see if this is plausible in the new year for you. And if it is, let's get you into your first home. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will catch you guys in the next one.